All right, guys, what's up? Josh Crane coming to you Friday morning. What's today? September 6th. No guest today. It's just me, but I've got something I want to talk to you about. And, you know, I've only kind of recently started paying more attention to this specific type of thing. And it's so interesting to me what I experienced. And I'm going to just be honest with you. I think what I'm about to tell you could save your life. And I'm not being melodramatic when I say that. I mean, sincerely, what the story I am about to reveal to you, if you listen to it, if you say, okay, you know, Josh may be a little crazy on some things and whatever else, but I'm going to start paying attention to this too. It very well may save your life. So here's the story. July 9. If I'm not mistaken, I think that was a Tuesday, but nonetheless, July 9th, I didn't knock my cups over. July 9th, I go home from work and my daughter, my oldest daughter is home and, you know, I want to go do a ruck. And I've been trying to get her to be more active because at that time of the year, July, we're getting ready for school to start. Soccer season's going to be starting. And you know, I was just like, baby girl, you really need to get out and you need to be moving because I'm telling you, when you start doing conditioning for soccer, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. So July 9th, I go home. I tell my baby girl, I say, hey, I'm going to go do a ruck. I'd really love you to go with me. And I thought she wasn't going to go, but she did. And we didn't do a big one. I mean, I put on like 30 pounds, I think, and we only did 2 miles. During the ruck, my upper back was super tight, which is not unusual for me, but I never could really get comfortable in the ruck. But we complete it, no real problems with it. We get home, I drop my rucksack in the garage where my workout area is, and then I sit on the front porch and cool down. And it was great. I felt wonderful. And my wife was going to be coming home within the next hour and a half or so. So I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and get my shower. I'm going to get everything ready here at the house so that when she walks in, things will be nice. So I go in, I jump in the shower. As soon as I get out of the shower, I mean, literally, as soon as I step out of the shower, I just get this kind of hit that goes from like the upper middle of my back around to my chest. It was somewhere between like a muscle spasm and just like your back going out. And it was like, wow, that hit kind of hard. And it was enough that it got my attention, okay? So I sat there for just a second. I was like, this is weird, whatever. And then almost immediately after that, I started sweating. Now, I had done a cool down, probably not as long as I typically would, but I had cooled down. So that to me was weird. Anyways, long story short. I go in, I try to cool down under the ceiling fan in the living room. I'm just not feeling really good. And I start thinking, well, maybe I'm hungry. Maybe I've pushed too hard this week already. Maybe I'm just hungry. I tried to eat, couldn't really eat. So whatever. Midnight that night, so about 6 hours of dealing with this just discomfort, I can't sleep. I finally tell my wife, hey, I'm going to drive myself to the ER because I don't know what this is, but I don't want to take any chances with it, right? So I drive myself down to the ER. The doctor at the ER does a CT scan, does an X-ray, and they do an EKG. And every one of those things comes back clear. And the short story was the doctor said, I think you're probably right. I think it's muscle related to your back because those muscles connect to the front. So this isn't necessarily unusual what you're describing. But he said, hey, look, just out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to make a referral for you to go see a cardiologist. I'm not seeing anything that's a problem, but just to be super safe, go see a cardiologist, make sure there's nothing that they need to look at, and then I think you'll be good to go. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll do that. So he makes that referral. I get called from the cardiologist. I'm not going to name any names or locations, but I get called from the cardiologist's office. They set the whole appointment up. And it's, you know, I can't remember the day. It was about 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago now. In the meantime, the pain has completely gone away by the time I leave the ER. And I did not take anything, like no medication. We go on our summer trip for the end of the summer before The girls start school and all that kind of stuff. And it was a good vacation. I'm working out every evening there at the place where we're staying, or I'm doing a ruck on the beach or whatever. Everything's feeling fine. It's just great. I feel wonderful. And then that Wednesday, I get done with an evening workout and I just don't feel good. And again, I'm thinking it's super hot. Whatever. I've probably pushed too hard. And so I just decide, all right, I'm going to relax. I'm not going to do any more workouts for at least Thursday, and we're leaving Friday anyway, so that's no big deal. Wednesday night or Wednesday evening, for the first time, I feel this little flutter in my chest. I don't know how to describe it to you, but it just feels like you can feel your heartbeat, and it just feels like, it's like it just flutters, right? It's a weird feeling. Now listen, if you know me or you have followed anything that I've said for the last several years, I've been pretty open about the fact that for most of my life, one of my big battles is anxiety. Okay. I am the classic worrier. I am always wanting to make sure everything's okay. I'm concerned about things that are outside of my control. Like, okay, it's just one of the crosses that I have to bear. So when your chest goes and you got anxiety to begin with, you're kind of like, oh crap, what is that? Right? You start to pay attention. And that's what happened to me. Well, as I'm paying attention to it, like I'm focusing on it more and more and more and more, which is honestly just making it worse and worse and worse and worse, right? Well, I already had the cardiologist appointment scheduled. It was going to take place the Friday that I got back from vacation. All right. And I was actually going to cancel the appointment, decided not to because, I was feeling great, but then this thing happened. I was like, I'll go ahead and keep it. So I come home, I'm monitoring that. And that's the other thing you got to know about me. Like I watch my heart rate on a daily basis. I maintain my blood pressure. Like I pay attention to what's going on with my body. All right. So as I'm watching this, my anxiety is basically staying at, DEFCON 4, and it's just not good. I end up calling a couple of friends of mine that are in the paramedic, first responder type, field area, talking to them about it. Probably one of the worst mistakes I made. Take this as just, whatever, word to the wise, I suppose. One of the worst mistakes I made was when I got home from vacation, I changed watches. Now, I'm a watch guy. I like different watches. I've got different ones that I like to wear, but one of my most favorite watches is this Garmin Tactical Solar. I wear it all the time, and it'll tell me my heart rate. Like right now, within some degree of accuracy, like right now, my heart rate's 80, right? But the worst mistake I made was I changed watches from this one to the Apple Ultra. And I did that because, as you know, the Apple Ultra has they call it ECG, right? You can put your finger on the little turn dial on the side and it'll take your heart rhythm and tell you whether or not you're in atrial fibrillation, that kind of stuff, right? So the worst thing I could possibly do, I did. And I started just sitting there watching what's going on. And of course, my heart rate is irregular and that's freaking me out. And so I end up going down to a fire station. I kid you not. A good friend of mine hooks me up on a 12 lead EKG and says, well, here's the thing, man. I'm seeing like an extra heartbeat, but dude, like you're otherwise very healthy. So I'm going to give you these printouts, bring them to your cardiologist appointment when you go. He might want to do something, whatever, but I think you're fine. So, all right, cool. So that's all the backstory to really get me to what's important now. So that Friday, I go to my cardiologist appointment. My anxiety is through the roof. I don't have it in here. With me, but when I went to that appointment, I made from here in my office, I made a 3-ring binder. Inside that binder, I had color photos of every single supplement that I take. Now, I don't take a ton of supplements, okay? But every morning, like in this right here, this is water, salt, electrolytes, and collagen. every morning. Okay. So I took color photos of the containers that those supplements are in with the nutrition labels, the vitamins that I take. I did the same thing. I printed out, I think 30 or 60 days, I can't remember which, of blood pressure readings. I gave the last month worth of workout routines. I had all of that in that 3-ring binder because I wanted that doctor to see, look, this is what I take. This is what I monitor. This is my physical activity. Like, I'm thinking this is data that you're probably going to need when you're looking at my heart to try to figure out, is there something going on with my heart or not, right? Number one, when the doctor came in, he asked me very few questions. At first it was just a basic, okay, so I see that you're claiming, a little bit of a heart palpitation and you had a situation that it brought you to the ER in July. I was like, yes, sir. Now, he did tell me, kudos to him, that he had pulled the records from the hospital. And he said, all right, there was no heart attack. The EKG looked clear and all of that. So then he listens to my heart and he goes, okay, well, everything sounds fine. He said, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put you on a heart monitor for 2 weeks just so I can monitor what's going on. Now, my buddy that's in the paramedic field, he had already told me, like, they're probably going to want to do that. So I was like, oh, totally cool with me. And he was kind of done. But I said, hey, doc, if you don't care, I mean, I know you've got like 150 other patients to see. And I know that I've already taken up like a minute and a half of your time, but can I show you this real quick? He's like, yeah. And so I got my notebook out and I showed him. I said, all right, I take these supplements in the morning. I take these in the evening. I said, here are my last however many blood pressure readings. These are the workouts that I've done. He gave it a very cursory, okay, yeah, that looks fine. I said, okay. And we were done. That was my appointment. Okay. So they put me in another room. The lady comes in and puts a heart monitor on me. All right. Now, I had asked the doctor before he left the appointment with me. I said, okay, once you put that heart monitor on, is there anything that I need to be aware of? Like anything I'm not supposed to do? And he said, no, live your life the way you live your life. You just be careful because the heart monitor needs to stay on. Okay. It's adhesive. It sticks up here on your chest. You got to keep it on. So jiu-jitsu was out of the question. Okay. But my regular workouts were not. So I said, okay, cool. So I go in the other room. The lady comes in. She puts the heart monitor on, and she tells me, she says, okay, you don't want to get this wet, like submerging wet. She says, and you don't want to sweat a lot. And I kind of laughed and I said, well, that's going to be a problem. And she said, why? Do you work outside? And I said, no, ma'am, but I work out every day. And the doctor told me that I could keep working out. So she goes, okay, well, here's what I'll do. And then she takes some like high grade medical tape and she tapes it on in addition to the natural adhesive that it had. All right. So I've got this heart monitor on and I'm supposed to keep it on for 2 weeks. Okay. So I leave the doctor's appointment. I come back here to the office because my wife is here that day. I pick her up so that we can go to lunch. Now, that appointment was in August. I don't remember the day, but by that point, I had consumed 0 caffeine since July 10th. I cut out all my caffeine cold turkey. I was watching, a little bit better what I eat, still doing my workouts and all that kind of stuff. I went and I met with my wife. We went to lunch and my wife was like, I should get a certificate. I told you, there is nothing wrong with you from a health standpoint. You worry about too many things. Your anxiety is too high a lot of times, but you're probably one of the healthiest people I know. So we kind of laughed about it or whatever, and I felt good. And that kind of kickstarted my 2 weeks with a heart monitor. So for 2 weeks, I lived my life basically the same way that I normally do. I did my workouts. The only thing that I modified, I didn't do my cold plunges and I didn't get in the wet sauna because that would be a little too much for the heart monitor. But everything else was kind of the same. Now the deal was, at the end of that 2 weeks, I was to take it off, mail it in, and then the results would go to the doctor. The doctor would call me and the doctor would say, hey, these are the results. But before I had left the doctor's office, the day that I got the heart monitor, they said, we also want to go ahead and schedule you for an echocardiogram just to make sure that the heart looks okay. I was like, okay, fine. That's no problem. Whatever. So what day was it? Did I do this Monday? I don't remember what day I did it now because Monday was a holiday. Tuesday. Okay, so Tuesday of this week is when I went in to have the echocardiogram done. All right. So I go in the same doctor's office. I go in. They eventually call me back. They do the little ultrasound of my heart. The lady that does that says, all right, I'm going to give this to Dr. So-and-so. He'll review it and then he'll call you with anything that he sees. She says, but if I had seen anything that concerned me, I would immediately get the doctor. And I said, okay, good to know. And I leave. So now, see, all right. So now yesterday, so that was Thursday. I was there Tuesday. So now Thursday, I'm at my office. And this is where you need to pay attention. Everything to this point has just been background so that you have context to understand what happens next. Okay? I'm at my office, sitting here working. My cell phone rings. It's a phone number I don't recognize, but it's an area code where I live. So I go ahead and I answer it. Again, I'm not going to give names. But the lady on the phone, she was nice enough. She says, hey, Mr. Crane, I'm calling from Dr. So-and-so's office. I said, okay, yeah. Yeah, just wanted to give you a call. The doctor has reviewed your heart monitor data and the echocardiogram from Tuesday. And it looks like you had one episode on the heart monitor data where your heart rate got kind of high. So Dr. So-and-so wants me to go ahead and get you started on a low dose medication. And she gave the name, I don't remember it, to help kind of get that under control. And I said, wait a minute. I said, I don't doubt that you saw my heart rate get high at least one time. Now, mind you, she didn't tell me what high was. She didn't say like, man, your heart rate got to like 225. She just said, he saw one time that your heart rate got high, so he wants to go ahead and get you started on a low dose medication to control that. I said, well, ma'am, I work out. I have zero doubt in my mind that on at least one occasion, if not more, you probably saw my heart rate reach 130 to 145 because that's what happens when I'm picking up an 80-pound medicine ball and slamming it on the ground as part of my workout. Or that's what happens when I'm carrying 100-pound Thompson dumbbells or kettlebells down my driveway and back. You see, because I combine weights and cardio together. So yeah, of course my heart rate's going to get up. So the nice lady says, okay, well, so do you want me to tell the doctor that you don't want the medication? Yes, ma'am. What I would prefer you do is tell the doctor that you've talked to me, that I'm telling you that my heart rate being that high does not concern me at all because I monitor my heart rate. I'm kind of keyed up right now and I'm still only at 83. Okay. And I told her, I said, ma'am, I told the doctor when I met with him that my average resting heart rate is between 55 and 65. My heart rate is going to get up when I work out. Okay, well, I'll pass that on to him. He also wanted me to let you know that the echocardiogram looked very, very good. No signs of any kind of heart disease or problems. So everything looked really good. But I'll let him know. And if he needs to follow up with you, I'll let him call you. I said, that's perfectly fine. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So I get off the phone. Later in that afternoon, I'm in the middle of meetings and my phone rings again, so I can't answer it, but they leave a voicemail. And a voicemail, Mr. Crane, this is so-and-so from Dr. So-and-so's office. I just want to let you know I gave that message to the doctor about your workouts, and he said, okay. Just let us know if you need anything else. That was it. Here's my point, guys. I went into the doctor, trusting the doctor, because I had something happen in July that was a little bit of an anomaly to what I normally experience. It turned out to be clear. Out of an abundance of caution, they said, hey, let's do a heart monitor. I did that. I complied with that. Okay? When they get the results for 2 weeks, 14 days, the doctor says, I saw one time where your heart rate got elevated, and the immediate answer is, I want to go ahead and put you on medication. They didn't ask me. The doctor didn't call me and ask me, hey man, let's talk about what your lifestyle was in that 2 weeks. I see your heart rate got really high on, Tuesday night at 6:30. It was around 145. Okay. Were you in a car wreck? Did something else happen in your life? I'm trying to figure out why I see that when all the other times of the 14 days, everything seems cool. I mean, you would think that you would want to ask a question like that, right? You would think that you want to figure out before you simply pump medication to somebody that they actually need the daggum medication. But no. Dr. So-and-so would like to go ahead and get you started on a low-dose medication. Okay, fine. But then when I tell them, I think I've got an explanation for why you're seeing an increased heart rate at certain times, and it's this. When that message is relayed to the doctor and his office calls me back and says, hey, we've told Dr. So-and-so that your heart rate was probably related to your workout, and he said, okay, that's actually a problem too. Because look, there's only two ways you can look at that. Number one, if he says, okay, it means that was a very plausible explanation for a periodic increase in heart rate. And if it's that plausible that you can dismiss that explanation with a simple, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense, why would you jump to medication first? But the alternative to that is my explanation makes no sense according to, the laws of medicine. That is not an explanation for why he sees an increased heart rate. And if that's the case, then the response back to me should have been, Mr. Crane, he knows that you worked out and he would anticipate seeing an increased heart rate during that period of time, but this is still a bit of an anomaly, so he'd like to talk to you more about it. But neither of those, that's not what happened. It was literally just, hey, we want to give you medication. And when there was a little bit of resistance, and I mean not even like hardcore resistance, just, hey, wait a minute, before we do that, can I explain to you what I do? Okay, that was enough for that doctor to go, okay, yeah, no problem. Well, if you need anything else in the future, just let me know. I told my wife about that because she was here after that phone call, and I said, this is why. For the first time in my life, and I know when this started. I mean, my personal opinion is it started around 2020, but for the first time in my life, doctors do not hold the credibility that they once did. Because people are starting to wake up to what's actually going on. And before you get your panties in a wad that I'm saying mean things about doctors that save people's lives and okay, understand, I could have the same kind of conversation about lawyers. There are lawyers that absolutely suck. There are lawyers that take advantage of their clients. There are lawyers that are only in it for the money and they do not care what happens to the people, okay? Don't think that doctors, because they have chosen a profession to be a physician, are somehow holy people that just really want to do the best for everyone. I'm not saying there aren't those, but you better dadgum wake up to the fact that that ain't all of them. And I'm starting to believe it ain't even the majority of them, to be honest. So then you have to look at it and you say, well, what's going on then? Like, why is this? What's happening? And it's money. It is money. This doctor makes more money the more people he can get on medication. And you can sit here all day long and say, that's not true. He doesn't make any money if he puts you on, XYZ medication. That's the pharmaceutical companies. I know this would be boring, but go sit in a doctor's office's lobby for a week. From when they open to, heck, just do lunch. And then you report back and tell me how many drug reps are walking in that office to make sure the doctor knows that, oh, this medication right here is, it's our newest one. You see, drug companies don't get to market, in a sense, directly to you. Now, I know you will see more drug prescription commercials on TV than you probably see anything else, okay? But understand this. If you're sitting on the couch eating your Cheetos, drinking your Bud Light, and a daggum commercial comes on for Ozempic, showing all the unhealthy people becoming healthy by just stabbing themselves in the belly with a drug. Or the older people saying, I used to not be able to get out and play with my grandkids. But thanks to Pfizer, I now take this drug and I feel like I'm 20. All right? Whatever the commercial is, when you see it, you don't get to run down to Walgreens and just go, hey, give me some out there. No, buddy, you got to go through a doctor to get that. And if you think there's not an incentive to the doctor to make sure you're on medication, you are insane. At this point in time, I don't know how much proof you actually have to understand that doctors profit from sick people. If you are not sick, if you are not dependent on a medication, if they cannot keep you in the loop, they don't get to live in their big fancy house and drive their fancy car to the valet parking at the daggum hospital. Okay? Good night. Heart rate still 81. I'm pretty fired up now. So guys, look. If I was a person that didn't pay attention to my health already, if I was a person that didn't work out, if I was a person that just had blind trust in the medical establishment, today, I would have taken a medication for the first time. I would have got up this morning. I would have brushed my teeth. I'd have picked up my new little orange bottle with the white cap on it. I'd have unscrewed it and took one. Because a doctor told me my heart rate was elevated at one point and I need this medication. But thank goodness I do pay attention to my health. I am willing to think critically about what's going on. And I therefore am not on the hamster wheel of medication dependency that, quite frankly, would allow the doctor to make sure that I come back in a month to make sure that everything's still going good. And then after that, I want to see you every 6 months. This has become such a racket, guys. And it's just, we are so medicated in this country. So medicated. And I just wonder, I know the answer to this. If it's anything like the experience that I had, I absolutely know the answer to it. But I recently sat in that doctor's office Tuesday. I got there 30 minutes early because the little email that I got said, please arrive 30 minutes early so that you can sit 30 minutes past your appointment time before we talk to you. Whatever. I watched person after person walk into that office. I'm not trying to be mean toward other people. I'm not. I have compassion about this toward other people. But I probably watched, while I was there in the lobby, maybe 10 people walk in and check in and then have a seat. All but one were overweight. All but one. And I don't mean overweight according to the FDA's, definition or the, whatever. Because according to them, I'm obese, but I mean, legitimately, you could look at them and tell physically that they're inactive. And I wonder how many of those people, they're only there for heart issues. That's it, because that's the only thing that doctor does. But how many of those people, when they go back and they sit in that exam room, when that doctor walks in, how many of them does he say, hey, let's talk about your exercise routine. Are you active? Are you required to be kind of sedentary at your job? Do you have to sit at a desk all day? Okay. Do you walk at all, say in the evenings? Do you have any opportunity to say, maybe get a little walk in at lunch? How many conversations like that do you think are taking place? My guess is none. None. Because see, if the doctor gives you tools and encourages you to make lifestyle changes that will save your life or extend your life, he loses money. He cannot profit off of you if you are healthy. You have to be sick. So keep eating your Cheetos and drinking your beer. Keep being sedentary and not doing anything. And keep showing up to his office so that he can make sure he can keep billing for tests and pumping medication into your body. Because gosh, getting to take some of those fancy trips that the drug reps offer is kind of nice. All right, guys, those are my thoughts today. Like them or don't. It's what I believe. Y'all make it a good one.